Hello, all. I am Ryan Holthouse. I am a junior computer science major from Mason, Ohio, member of Cohort 11 of the Lilly Leadership Institute here at Miami.
And I am Michelle Ibu. I'm a junior biomedical engineering major from Nigeria, and I'm also a member of the Cohort 11 of the Lilly Leadership Institute here at Miami.
Then
Hi, and I'm
David,
David
like to,
Gayda.
yes.
I'm David Gayda. I'm a senior principal software engineer at Eli Lilly Company, and I graduated from Miami in 2015.
Awesome. So, yeah, if it's all right, we can go ahead and jump into the questions. So, our first question for you today, David, is how do you use AI in your daily life, and what current AI tools do you find noteworthy?
In my daily life, well, right now, I really like using ChatGPT for a lot of things, personal use and for work. That's the probably my go-to Gen AI tool. I'd say there's a lot of tools that I don't really know that I'm using in the background. So every time I'm on a website, getting recommendations from things, searching Netflix, it's all already integrated, a lot of it in my daily life. So there's a lot of tools that I use personally, but I think there's a lot of tools that are running for me in the background that I'm not even aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely become a lot more integrated to the point that we don't even know it's happening, like you said. So since you're going back for your master's and everything, yet you spent some time in industry, how have you seen attitudes in academics towards AI kind of shift and change, if you've seen a change at all?
Sure. So when I went back for my master's degree, um, I think I was more on the fringe of people that were really excited about this technology. Um, what's really happened, um, both in industry and academia, is we've finally seen a tool that's a little bit more generalized, and really like public facing. So what got me interested in AI and everything was just seeing really cool, classification models and things like that, looking at things like self-driving cars, but they're very use case specific. So there's a ton of opportunity to find an area and really dig in and learn a lot about it. But now I think it was, yeah, January or March of this year almost, it seems like everybody flipped out and now is in love with ChatGPT, OpenAI, and kind of large language models as a whole. And they just present the opportunity to integrate that into a lot of different work because it's something that we're kind of all connected with, and it's very generalizable about like what it can do. So there's just a lot of things that people can just think of and kind of ask it a question and then build on it from there, with these kind of large language models. Whereas when I went back, it was a little more specialized and a
Yeah,
little bit more fringe in terms of, who's actually interested in working with these things.
fair. Very fair.
Right. That leads us to our next question. So, have you seen any notable differences between the way companies use AI and between the way higher education institutions use this artificial intelligence? And if so, what have those differences looked like?
I think generally their domains are just a little bit different. So academia's always been kind of researching these things, and industry has also pushed the envelope on that. I think right now, where we see just in terms of creating these things, developing these tools, academia almost is at a disadvantage as it doesn't have like all the funds and everything that
Yeah.
things like corporations like Microsoft have to train these huge things, spend millions of dollars, and academia really has to think about where they're putting their money. But then, like in terms of adopting it for academic use and everything, I think companies and academia are kind of on the same page with trying to provide and find use cases that are really beneficial for their specific situations. So things like, I mean, both industry and academia will be looking at kind of chat box to at least, help students understand homework and ask questions without needing to go to office hours, getting like that immediate feedback. So that would be in academia. They can do something like that. And then in industry, there's a tons of different applications that they can look forward to within their specific area that they really want to focus on, whether that's customer support or internal tooling to explore data or put together any sort of, automated projects and things.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, I think like an important point of what you said is that there's definitely a sort of difference in level of funding for all of that, how that all applies. Obviously with a corporate setting, you get your on-prem instances, and it's just something, academia can't always allocate money for, but still very interesting to see. As somebody who like works with this technology and works in technological industry, what are some of the kind of fears around the adoption of AI that you've seen, and how do you feel we can best combat those?
Right. I think already immediately seen a lot of fears. It
Yeah,
was like this, years ago when people were, putting together automated assembly lines and things. The first one is, okay, this is going to replace my job or the need for me. Recently, we've had like the writer's strike. And what's interesting about where we are right now is I think the people that are most worried are the people that we weren't expecting to be the most worried, which are people in arts and things like that, which, funny enough, people would always say, well, a computer's never going to be able to do that. It's such an intrinsic human kind of area,
yeah,
right? Like, how could a computer create art? But those are kind of the things that we're seeing the most impact from, and the most worry about when it comes down to kind of generative AI, because it's not just classifying things, solving things. It's kind of creating its own interpretation for us to kind of use and leverage for ourselves. So I think that's kind of an interesting area there. But of course, if we just want to talk logistically, there's a lot of security concerns for private information, leaking into these models, misinformation, because it's kind of all aggregated based on what we've trained it on.
yeah,
So it'll not necessarily always even think to give you the right answer. And that can lead to kind of sloppiness with the people using it. And then the kind of back to, the laziness principle, which because we have such a tool like this that can really kind of augment our own capabilities, will we see ourselves losing fundamental skills? You can think of when we first introduced like calculators and things. People are like, "Well, you're never going to learn your numbers tables. You're just not going to be ready for the world in the way you
yeah,
do because you're so reliant on some sort of technologies."
Mm.
So yeah, there's a lot of things that people are worried about. I think it's just looking at all those different areas, looking at your own personal situation and trying to find the best way to not restrict the use of tools like that, but enable them in a smart manner for your organization.
yeah. So kind of going in and just making sure like, we can assure you that this is going to kind of augment what you do rather than replace it almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Um, it takes us to our next question. What fields do you see generative AI impacting the most in the next 5 to 10 years?
Right. That's a highly speculative question. I'm not going to get that recorded, so we can watch this 5 to 10 years from now and see how wrong I am. But I think there's obviously a ton of areas that we can see growth. Um, Areas that I would like to see change the most is um, employing it in, healthcare fields like that, where it does take a long time to kind of make progress in those areas.
Yeah.
Um, and then, selfishly, like for my own kind of personal professional work, improving the entire like development and programming landscape. I've already seen like a ton of improvements on how quickly I can put something together. So I'm really excited to kind of continue to see how we can evolve that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely seen that in like comp sci sphere. This is, obviously you have a lot of stuff like GitHub Copilot all coming together to definitely improve the software development cycle for sure. Well, I think that about wraps us up on time. So thank you so much for being here. If you have any closing thoughts you'd like, if not, totally okay as well. But
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. This area is definitely booming. Everybody's has already been continuously playing catch up with a lot of these tools. So any interest you have, just go out, start playing with things. You're definitely exploring everything along with everybody else. So nobody really has a grasp on everything at this point.
yeah,
So the best thing you can do to prepare yourself is just understand what's out there in a broad sense, and then kind of figure out how you think it can impact you later on down the road.
absolutely. Well, thank you again so much for being here. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.